Time for the main event. It's the Shoe Shine.
¿Qué onda, vatos locos? It's your boy Dave from the 408 coming to you all the way from my podcast studio in San Jose, Califas, for a Monday night edition of the Shoe Shine. Joining me all the way from the city of brotherly love, Philly Irish, Philly Eagles fan, Drew Evo. ¿Qué pasa, homie? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Everybody hit the like button as you're coming in because the San Francisco 49ers did it. They beat the Dallas Cowboys, Drew. And we are on a collision course. Didn't I say this shit at the beginning of the Shoe Shine when the NFL season started, Drew? I said it. I said we are on a collision path to the NFC Championship, Drew. You gotta be smiling. You look a little worried. What's going on?
I ain't worried at all. I'm going to tell you the truth right now. The 49ers haven't faced a defense like the Eagles. Haven't faced an offense like the Eagles. And they no 7th round rookie quarterback coming to Philadelphia winning an NFC title game.
Was that 7th round last pick? Listen.
Very last pick.
You may have not seen it, but this guy, Purdy, man, he rolled into the 49ers parking lot this Sunday in his Lamborghini, and it's a big old decal says last picked or something like that, okay? Yeah, he may have been last pick, but he's definitely not playing like it. And Drew, every quarterback that becomes a star in the NFL, including some of the greatest, right? Like Tom Brady, may have not been first picked, man. I'm looking forward to this one. If I'm concerned at all, I'm concerned about the cold weather, man. That's all. That's all. That's all I'm concerned about.
Well, you should be concerned because he didn't really have that great of a game against the Cowboys. QB rating of 56. No, actually 52, below Dak Prescott's QBR rating. And Dak threw 2 interceptions in that game.
All right, the chat is looking good. Chicano Prophet, Nando Lamas, Santeo Media, Mom Food is in here, Bella Bling. Thank you guys for joining us. Shout out to my boy Roy who says, go Niners. Check out my boy Roy on YouTube, a great live streamer. JC says, first, Eagles gonna lose to the Niners. Let's make this announcement right now, Drew, because we was on my friend Derek Ware. He's a former Cowboys player in Arizona Cardinals. We were on his little show on Sunday right after the game. And we made a big announcement, guys, that Drew Evo and I are going to be having a little wager. Now, here's the thing. We've already said it on his platform. You guys aren't familiar with his channel, but Urban AZ. Like I said, he's a former Dallas Cowboys himself. Drew, we told him that we would do a pie bet. It's my idea. Y'all seen Drew take a pie over the Canelo bet. I'm gonna make the same bet with Drew, man. One of us is going to be eating a freaking pie again to start off 2023. 5 years plus in the making for the Shoe Shine. We started off on a different social media platform. Here we are on YouTube. I'm pretty confident I won't be taking that pie next Monday night, but somebody will be getting a cream pie to the face. Oh, shit. Jose El Compita, shout out to my boy. He says 49ers, let's go Shoe Shine. And Drew, like I just said, someone will be taking an embarrassing cream pie to the face next Monday. Make sure you tune in and let everybody know. I'm gonna post it. Probably will go 30 minutes into the show, make it a short show so everybody sees it. Boxing MMA 365. Thank you for joining us, Drew. It's time for the shoe shine, man. Eubanks Jr., 160-pound guys. Eubanks Jr. trained by the great Roy Jones, right? One of the greatest ever Hall of Fame boxers. Changed them all up. He used to be at 168 pounds. Drew, what the hell happened to him getting his ass knocked out this Saturday in the UK against Liam Smith, who's been in there with Canelo Alvarez, and I think he had a pretty decent performance against the face of boxing, Canelo Alvarez. But now he comes in with a 4th round KO. Run it back to me, Drew. What's going on with Eubanks? And was he going to get his ass beat by Conor Ben should they two have fought?
No, I didn't think he was going to get his ass beat by Conor Ben. Like, I'm like, this, I'm sorry, I'll tell you the truth. I said that him trying to imitate Roy Jones' style is not the best thing for him. He needs to listen to Roy Jones and stop trying to imitate him and be disciplined. He wasn't disciplined in that fight. He kept his hands down. He really, as it looked like, jabbing to keep somebody off of him, not jabbing to land a punch on him and to score points on him. And like the way that he was coming in and fighting, he was eventually going to get caught with something big because he had his hands down the whole time, trying to act flashy and everything. He does not really have the great reflexes that Roy does or his dad does. Like, I thought like Eubanks was a good fighter before he went to Roy Jones.
Mm-hmm.
But when he went to Roy Jones and tried to imitate him, he just went downhill. I didn't like. That's the guy that beat James DeGale.
Yeah,
is not there anymore, and this guy shouldn't even be fighting anymore. Like, especially if you get knocked out by a welterweight moving up, you're done.
Yeah, the punch resistance seems to be gone. If you guys want to tap into the phone line, 702-710-3627, we'll entertain your Phillies, Eagles versus 49ers predictions. Why not? It's been a slow week in boxing, but we're talking about Eubanks suffering an embarrassing KO, 4th round KO loss, and we're talking about whether or not this guy should even be fighting at 160 pounds. Drew, I don't remember what the Conor Ben fight's the super fight that was in the works. This is what Eubanks Jr. was training for, to lose all this weight. Like you said, former 168-pound contender, now down, melting, and like look like shit.
Well, here's the thing. When he was fighting Conor Ben, he was supposed to be on 154, 155, 154, and everything. So they were trying to weight drain him a little bit for Conor. But here's another thing. Prediction score, 27-17 Eagles.
We'll get to that right now. We do have a call, and I hope it's my boy ITR Boxing, because I do recognize the Bay Area phone number. So let's take this call real quick. Hey, 925, you're on the Shoe Shine. All right, hold on. I made a mistake, guys. Come on. 925, you're on the Shoe Shine.
Yeah, it's Lukey.
Lukey Boxing, our boy from ITR Boxing. Make sure you go out on Amazon and get Lukey's book. Oh, man, great to hear from you, man. Lukey, thanks a lot, man. What's on your mind?
I'm just bored, bro. I just laid down. I was just chilling, and then I saw a phone number, so I called in.
Oh, I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. And you know what? Like we were talking last, I want to give away some of your books, but I got to figure out how to get them autographed by you to give out to some of our good supporters of our show. And of course, make sure you check out Lukey on all his platforms. Lukey, what do you think about this fight? First, I saw you talking about Anthony Yarde is going to get stopped, and that is the big fight of the weekend. But right now, man, is Chris Eubanks Jr. washed up? This is the wrong weight class for him? But do you see his punch resistant shot?
I mean, people probably look at it like that, but to me, it's like, this is a guy who never won the big fight, and we live in an era where there's a lot of like real A side versus B. Like, we live in the era of what's the most acceptable A side, B side fight that we can make and get paid as much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he benefited off of getting wins against guys at the end of their career, or he had strategic advantages over. And whenever he had that 50-50 fight, he never could win it. So I think what this really tells me is, like, going into this fight, and I got a lot of backlash. I didn't see Eubanks Jr. as the favorite. On paper, to me, Liam Smith had fought Canelo, he'd fought Jaime Munguia, and if you look at two of their big fights, like I said on Beeb's show, Liam Smith throws 720 punches against Canelo. Against Liam Williams, a lower-level opponent, Chris Eubanks Jr. threw 380. That's not even landed punches. That's output.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's necessarily like if he's washed up. I just don't. I think this probably is going to be like Fonfara versus Chavez Jr., where it's like the signal, the end of Eubank. But I just never think he was a world-level fighter. And people look at Liam Smith as they don't look at what he is. And I'll conclude this because I'm talking too much, is that he's not that 7 to 15 guy in the division. Like, he's been from 7 to 15 for close to a decade now. And he might be a little undersized at middleweight. He might fill out well. But I think the story is more so that Liam Smith has been a really solid fighter for a long time, not as much that Eubank just isn't a top-tier fighter that people wanted him to be.
Got you. And what about the prospects going forward for Liam Smith at middleweight now? I'm hearing chatter about a potential fight that they'd like to set up with Gennady Golovkin, who's 40 years old. Does that fight entice you a bit?
I mean, look, if you're with, you have to try to get fighter of the year, right? Because it's like you just got an upset win. You could get a Golovkin. You could get a Janibek. Like, Golovkin's a winnable fight. Janibek's a winnable fight. Why is Janibek a winnable fight? He's like 3 or 4 fights rushed into where he needs to be. In 4 or 5 fights, I think Janibek will be what he's going to be, which is the best version of Victor Postal. To me, Janibek fights like Victor Postal. To me, Golovkin doesn't have the output, but he has the power. If Liam Smith can figure out a way to negate that power, he has the output to outwork a Golovkin. So that's a winnable fight. The bigger issue to me is this is supposed to be someone's division, and no one's stepping up and taking this division. Everyone's chasing Canelo, and Jaime Munguia is not taking the reins on this division. So Liam Smith has an opportunity to be the man at middleweight, which is really, really weird.
Yeah, you brought up a really interesting point about Jaime Munguia. And Drew, I don't know if you heard, I'm going to let you chime in on this, but Edgar Berlanga, we briefly mentioned it was not released. According to what I read from Top Rank, they parted ways mutually, whatever that means, right, Lukey? Maybe you can elaborate on that. But who's going to pick up Edgar Berlanga? He doesn't seem a natural fit at PBC, and Oscar De La Hoya seems to be chomping at the bit to bring Jaime up to 168 to fight Berlanga, maybe signing Berlanga to Golden Boy. Your thoughts on that? I'll start with Lukey.
Shout out to my guy Drew too, bro. I like my guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Drew. Yeah, of course.
Show.
Well, hop in on this one, and I'll get Drew's response to that because I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel like Berlanga doesn't belong anywhere.
I mean, look, I think Berlanga gets a lot of criticism because it's like Berlanga was kind of like Bill Goldberg for the older folks like me, where it's like he had this streak on pro wrestling television as a teenager or a young adult, and you're hitting puberty and girls look awesome, and there's Bill Goldberg on, and he wins these matches, and he keeps winning, and you're like, wow, is he going to keep doing it? Berlanga's problem is he got 16 first-round knockouts, and people will say, oh, the quality of competition isn't good. Ulysses Sierra, Eric Moon, these are good fighters. Ulysses Sierra is fighting Beck the Bully. Beck the Bully is not going to stop him in one round. Berlanga, when he was at his most confident, was very, very tough to beat. The problem was once he didn't believe in the power and he knew guys could get out of that first round, something has changed both in his lifestyle and his temperament inside the ring. And what we're starting to see now is without that temperament and demeanor that he had in those fights, that reckless nature, it's hard to get that experience that Brad Goodman and Bruce Trampler were trying to give him as matchmakers. I always say, and people think this is funny, but like when a Bruce Carrington goes 6 rounds with a professional opponent like he did in Verona, that's really good because Bruce is learning how to be a professional. He's learning how to get rounds in. The knockouts are good for the fans, but if you're interested in building a fighter, both managerially or coaching, you want to go rounds because you need that experience. Liam Smith might be the best version of Liam Smith because he has the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think the hard part is everyone wants Edgar Berlanga to be a world championship fighter. He's a guy that needs like 7 or 8 more fights in terms of experience, but he's asking for huge paydays. So I think the gap is he wants big money because he has rap friends and he fills up buildings. But now with big money, this isn't a charity, Shoeshine and Drew. If you ask for a lot of money, you have to take on big opponents. You have to take on Diego Pacheco. You have to take on Jaime Munguia. So I think that the issue with Top Rank was just simply like the amount of money he was asking for probably didn't merit the type of performances he had. And with Xander Zayas kind of filling the role of what Berlanga's doing, is there really room for 2 fighters if one is asking and making demands and Xander can easily just be promoted to main eventing the Garden? Because if you remember when Xander fought Quincy Lavallee, perfect pronunciation, by the way, and it rhymed, that he got the bigger reception.
Yeah.
And I think that Berlanga could still be a Hall of Famer in my eyes. He could still be a really great fighter, but he's a very young fighter. This is like when Canelo was fighting Matthew Hatton. That's where Berlanga's at. And it's all about how fast they move him at this point, in my eyes. I think he's going to end up with Eddie Hearn. He's going to probably be fighting in Saudi Arabia and New York. And it's just going to come down to him.
Got you. Drew, your thoughts on, let me remove this big graphic from here so people can see your Purdy face. Purdy, you like that reference there to Purdy? Yeah, Drew, Berlanga being parting ways with Top Rank. I think it's great that Lukey brought up the fact, Drew, that when he was the main event, the last time at Madison Square Garden is on national free televised TV, most people thought he stunk up the freaking house and there was a better reception for Xander Zayas, Drew. What about that, man? Xander Zayas takes over that role as the young Puerto Rican future star at Top Rank, and Berlanga's got to go find his way.
Well, I think Xander Zayas has a better upside than Berlanga. Like, I'm hearing that the reason why they mutually parted ways is a difference of direction of his career. The matchmakers wanted to match Berlanga out with Philly's own Jesse Hart as a big step-up fight and everything. And Berlanga people didn't want to fight Jesse Hart. They didn't think he was ready for Jesse Hart and everything. I didn't think he was ready for Jesse Hart either. But so, of course, they probably were saying that, hey, we're not really going to make any money off him like that because eventually he's going to fight somebody that we think he should beat, and that person's probably going to knock him out. And they invested a lot of money in Berlanga when he was with Top Rank. And they felt that, hey, maybe it's time to step it up and see what we got before we waste any more money on him. And they didn't want to take the fight. So they decided, hey, maybe we should just part ways, and decided to part ways. Now, him going to Golden Boy makes the most sense because I think he will be somewhat protected enough until they decide to match him up with a Jaime Mejia, so they can put that as a build-in, as a big fight. But I just don't see anything other than the first round knockouts of positive of Berlanga, because I don't think, like, when after he started not knocking out people in the first round, it just showed that the kid can't really box that well to me. And I see that he's got a little bit more exposed.
Well, a lot of people bring up Jaime Munguia's resume as being poor on our platform, Drew. A lot of people have given the criticism that Jaime Munguia is being held back from fighting top opposition, top 5 fighters in the middleweight division. And now all of a sudden Oscar's excited about Berlanga being a free agent potentially to match him up against Jaime. Is he signaling he thinks this is an easy fight for Jaime? With a big name? A big ticket seller?
to me, I think he beats Berlanga easily. I think he stops Berlanga inside 5 rounds.
Well, you know, hey, he went against your Philadelphia fighter. One of my favorite fights for Jaime Munguia in recent memory is the one against your Philly fighter, Gabe Rosado. So I'm excited to see what those two guys, if they can make a fight. And for all we know, Berlanga will be held back too and be given, like, there's people in this chat saying right now they think that he needs more seasoning. Lukey brought that up. He needs more seasoning, more fights. He has got a streak, a tremendous knockout streak that didn't afford him the opportunity to get that pro experience. So, man, hey, let's quickly change subject to a fight coming up this weekend, because if you are going to be on the phone with us, Lukey, I want to get your thoughts on the welterweight division and ALexis Rocha, whose only professional loss is to someone we just saw get embarrassed, almost embarrassed, or maybe a controversial loss, and I'm talking about Rashidi Ellis. Is ALexis Rocha, Lukey, a top 5 welterweight? Because apparently the WBO rankings say he is.
Wait, say that last part. I was reading the comments.
Oh, no worries, man.
My bad.
ALexis Rocha is going to be fighting on DAZN this weekend at the YouTube Theater in Inglewood, California.
Yeah, against Goose Young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about the guy he's fighting, but you also mentioned Beck the Bully, which is a guy I like to watch. It looks like it's going to be a really entertaining card. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, a future superstar in that young kid. But is ALexis Rocha really deserving of a number 3 ranking by the WBO, because they can't seem to get near enough to make a fight with Terrence Bud Crawford? But ALexis Rocha thinks if he puts on a dominant performance, he should be next in line, in front of another Golden Boy fighter everybody's all up about, and that's Virgil Ortiz. Does he deserve to be there?
I mean, this is the state of boxing right now. Boxing has turned into A-side fights and the most acceptable B-side fight that the fans will accept. And then how can the fans kind of convince themselves this is a fair fight? So in the world that we live in, I'm sure Crawford might next fight ALexis Rocha if he's to win this fight, because that's the world we live in. We don't live in the world of 50-50 fights anymore. When 50-50 fights happen, it's quite exciting. But I feel like we live in a world where it's like, here's an A-side fighter in Crawford, and who's the most acceptable fighter I can take to get paid a lot that will serve the purpose of a main event date.
Yeah.
You know? Like, why is Artur Beterbeiv fighting Anthony Yarde? Why is he mandated to fight this? I don't think anyone that's ever seen both of these guys fight think outside of a puncher's chance or Beterbeiv having an injury, pulling a muscle, Yarde doesn't have any, like, the gap in talent. If they were in a gym, right? If they were in the gym with me, I wouldn't let Yarde spar him. That's how big the gap is. And it's like, I'm trying to watch videos promoting this fight, and they're talking about, well, he talked to Usyk. Well, guess what, guys? I could eat a hamburger, get up to 175. I could talk to Usyk, and Beterbeiv will stop me too. Talking to a man that beat a man, boxing it isn't that simple. So, I mean, we live in this world. Like, I think the Rocha Young fight's interesting just for the sheer fact that Anthony Young beat Saddam Ali. He's a tough guy. He's been around guys like Ray Ford, veteran of the sport, came in late, football guy, big puncher. I think this is another fight where it comes down to how much punch output can the guys do. I think that Anthony told me he took the fight on 4 or 5 weeks notice when I talked to him. So he had maybe a 6 or 7 week camp. Do you guys think he can throw 500 punches over the course of 10 rounds? Do you think ALexis can? I mean, this feels like a fight where punch volume is going to be a big indicator of it. If you have defense and output, it's probably going to win you the fight. But I'm talking all over you guys on your own show.
No, I'm excited to have you on here. Let me have Drew chime in on this, Drew, because ALexis Rocha, he beat the crap out of one of my favorite Philadelphia guys. That's very entertaining to me, not because of his fighting technique, but Blair the Flair. And Blair the Flair's been in the news this week because he's got a lot of shit to say. In fact, I think he's talking shit on his own promoter, Drew. In an interview with Fight Hub, He says, first of all, he mentions nothing about ALexis Rocha, who made him look silly in the ring recently. That's ALexis Rocha's most recent big win in my name. But here he is. Blair the Flair thinks he will fuck up both Virgil Ortiz and your Philadelphia guy. Is he tripping, man? Or should he focus on getting a fight with ALexis Rocha, a rematch? Or because clearly he didn't belong. He didn't seem to belong in the ring with someone like ALexis Rocha. And he thinks now that he's bounced back from that and he can go after Virgil Ortiz, and he's kind of, it seems like to me, he was upset at Oscar De La Hoya for not trying to make that fight in-house.
The fight that I'm surprised it hasn't been really talked about, in-house fight, is ALexis Rocha versus Virgil Ortiz. I just don't understand why the hell this fight's never talked about.
In fact, I didn't bring it up, and you're right about that. Just looking at these WBO rankings, Virgil Ortiz is number 1. ALexis Rocha is number 3, and Keith Thurman is going to get a crack. Actually, Keith Thurman's moving up in weight. Just goes to show you.
I looked at it like this. When I first saw who ALexis Rocha was fighting, they had a picture of it, him and a guy lined up in a black screen. Looked like he was fighting new sidebar from Mortal Kombat. But I don't know. I was really with Blair Cobbs, man. Blair Cobbs. He got a good bounce back win over a former champion at 140, Marty Hooker and everything. Should have stopped him, knocked him down like 4 times, but I really think Blair Cobbs should consider to move to 154. I just don't see him beating Rocha. I don't see him beating Virgil Ortiz. I don't see him beating any top fighter at 147. I don't even see him beating a top fighter because Blair Cobbs, he's a very undisciplined fighter. And he hits, but he takes a lot of shots. And Rocha gave that dude a beating when he beat the balls off of Blair Cobbs. I just don't think too highly of Blair Cobbs. And he's from Philly, and people say, "Oh, I should stick up for him." No, be honest with you, I don't think too highly of him because he's a very undisciplined fighter that would take that. He hits, but he takes a lot of hits, and Rocha exposed that and beat the balls off him. I don't think he beats anybody at 147. I don't think he beats a top fighter clearly.
Our boy Nando Lamas is trolling. Drew loves to come after us, but Nando says Blair Cobbs would be the biggest fight on Boots' resume.
Lipinets is a bigger fight than Blair Cobbs. Nando, come on.
Lipinets, a former champion.
He hasn't won shit. Fucking Lipinets was a 140-pound champion.
Oh man, Nando's probably going to give us a call if you want. Lukey, everybody's excited in the chat here to talk about this YARDE fight, YARDE versus Arthur BETERBEIV. And you were just saying, let me just let you finish your thoughts, man. But do you think YARDE doesn't stand a chance?
Well, to me, this is such a mismatch. Because, look, I saw Team Batman in the chat. Nice guy, right? Speed and athleticism. You need to have elite speed and elite athleticism. You're dealing with an Olympic boxer who's a concussive puncher, who's not dynamic, but he sets traps. And I will paint an illustrated picture right now to explain how big of a mismatch this is. Anthony Yarde is going to step into the ring, and he's going to try to burglarize a home. And he's going to see an open door and an open window. And he's going to go, "Oh, my God, this is so awesome." He's going to get his bell rung when he tries to go through the window because there's going to be a kitchen pan that hits him in the head. He's going to try to walk into the door, and it's going to shut in his face. He's going to be facing things that he's never seen in the ring. He has questionable punch resistance. He's not good at setting up his shots. He likes to put himself on the ropes. I get that he does flashy maneuvers and stuff, but this is a mismatch. This is a very big mismatch.
True, Arthur BETERBEIV beat up Joe Smith in just 2 rounds in a unification match. He now holds all 3 titles. Man, he made so much easy work of the blue collar champion. Is it going to be a 2-round fight, or is Anthony Yarde too strong to? Because I couldn't.
1 round fight.
1 round. Luke, he says 1 round.
1 round unless he wants to. 1 round unless he wants to punish him.
And get
But
some.
I mean, I think he can stop this guy in 90 seconds. It's just that big of a gap, bro.
Drew?
I agree with everything Lukey just said. This fight lasts a minute and a half.
A minute
Maybe a
and
minute.
a half.
That's all I'm giving him.
If he wants it.
If you look at it like this, Anthony Yarde's other loss besides Sergey Kovalev is not a big puncher in Lyndon Arthur, which he avenged that loss. But the thing about it is, he really got outboxed by Lyndon Arthur the whole fight and everything that he lost to him, and like he's not that really that skilled in my eyes. I like. If you looked at, like, anybody remember the Kovalev fight, but he almost stopped Sergey Kovalev. But they were if you looked at his corner language, his team, they were not talking to him, giving him advice in that fight. They were just fixing him up and not saying a word to him. I just don't see Anthony Yarde going after Arthur BETERBEIV, bang the bang with him, or body to body with him for long.
That's a death wish. That's a death wish to go
that's the
punch
only
for punch against him. It failed against Joe Smith Jr., right, Drew? Joe Smith Jr. went toe to toe and did horribly for him.
Joe Smith Jr. knocks out Anthony Yarde. Like, here's the thing. If you look at the top fighters in the light heavyweight division,
actually, let's make a game. Let's play. Who would Anthony Yarde beat
at light heavyweight?
Let's go through the top fighters.
Good.
Yep.
At 175, he doesn't even beat Canelo Alvarez.
Oh, that's a mismatch that Canelo would take that fight.
But it looks good on paper, though. It looks like a good opponent. Drew, remind me who is top 5 at light heavyweight, because BETERBEIV holds 3 belts. Does he beat Joe Smith Jr.?
No.
Agree. He doesn't come close to beating Bivol, obviously.
Callum Smith beats him. Joshua Buatsi beats him. Pascal beats him.
Zoto Marias beats him.
That's right. He moved up to light heavyweight, too.
Like, if you look at it like this, I'm going to tell you this right now. The top 5 light heavyweights all knock out Anthony Yarde.
Hey, Lukey, I used to hear that Yarde didn't have in his training camps, he didn't spar. Was there any truth to that? And is that a current practice of him that he doesn't spar?
I mean, when he lost to Lyndon Arthur, who to me is like a worse version of Sullivan Barea, I stopped really focusing on the stuff around him, because those are no disrespect to Lyndon Arthur, but that's a guy that if you're some athletic fighter, like one of these, because he's, as my guy Drew said, he's not a fundamentally sound fighter, right? He's more of like a Chris Eubanks dynamic fighter. Lyndon Arthur is a high guard, come forward, clunky fighter. Those are the guys that athletic fighters are supposed to beat just on sheer athleticism. When you can't figure out what Lyndon Arthur's doing and he's just hitting A, B, Y on the Super Nintendo controller. That's all he's doing. He's hitting the same buttons, coming the same way, same pattern, and you're like, God, this is tough. Can't figure out what he's doing here. I stopped caring, bro, because there's a level of thinking, like, what's going to happen if he fights like a guy that's like a Usyk? He's not going to know what's happening. And I think what happens is BETERBEIV, however you want to say it, this guy's a really smart thinker in there. He's just not like the most gifted hand speed guy, but he's setting up traps to land really big shots. But because he's a concussive puncher, we tend to dumb down his boxing ability, kind of like in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And Yarde really doesn't know what's going to be coming. Like, I can't emphasize that. Like, he's going to be moving in directions to walking into punches. He's going to get hit with the hardest punches he's ever been hit with. He's going to shell up on the ropes, and then he's going to be hit to the body, I'm pretty sure he's going to get stopped to the body. But if BETERBEIV really doesn't like this guy, he's probably going to carry him and just beat the hell out of him. You have to have faith that Anthony Yarde is going to do something he probably could never do again for this to believe he could win this fight.
Yeah. Guys, I've watched Anthony Yarde's tape. He's very clumsy on his feet, particularly how he steps and how he goes backwards. And I think it's perfect for all the traps that BETERBEIV is going to set up for him. He's also really lazy when he comes in with his left hook. He always leaves his head straight down the line, Drew, which is just going to be easy work for BETERBEIV.
Yeah, it's going to really work against the hardest puncher, right? These are things you teach a kid when they're 12. Keep your head off the line, or keep your lead hand up, so if something's coming down the line, it will deflect it. These are things as a world championship level fighter that he's struggling with. And that's why I'm saying there's a huge talent gap here.
Yeah, there definitely is. Where does this leave BETERBEIV, who's now getting over 30 years old? He gets through Yarde. Are we going to get the ultimate unification this year? Undisputed at light heavyweight, in your opinion? Drew's shaking his head no. Is Bivol going to get suckered into fighting Canelo Alvarez at whatever weight class Canelo wants? Because this is a dream matchup, but he's definitely getting in there.
He's going to fight Callum Smith.
Okay.
He's already got a WBC fight lined up after this. But the problem is with BETERBEIV, he's one of the 10 best fighters in the world, and he fights once a year lately. So it's if he has 2 fights lined up for this year, in theory, that's probably his year, because he just doesn't fight that much. Do we expect a guy who's fighting once a year to fight 3 times this year because he has to fight Callum Smith unless he drops the belts? I'm just mad at the sanctioning bodies for making this fight have to happen, because this was a really unnecessary mandated fight.
Yeah. Hey, people are always mad at these sanctioning bodies. I guess we all agree here. Does anybody disagree and think Anthony Yarde has a chance? Drop it in the comment section now. But while, Lukey, you bring up that point,
send your Venmo. I want to bet you. If someone really believes Anthony Yarde's going to win, I'll give you good odds.
There you go, man. Hit him up on the Venmo if they want to make a bet with Lukey Boxing. There was something here that I read with Jack Catterall. A lot of people think he had a very close fight if he didn't merit the win against Josh Taylor. But Josh Taylor, this fight, they were about to have this rematch, right? He gives up 3 of his belts. He was undisputed at 140-pound champion. Now all the belts have gone their ways. And is it let me make sure I got this, but the last of his belts, Drew, apparently this fight is postponed indefinitely, and they want medical proof ASAP from Josh Taylor that he actually busted his plantar fasciitis. I guess it's torn, is what he's alleging. But they're ready to take away his last belt. And I wanted to know how you feel about it, Drew. And Lukey, if you've heard anything about this, that would mean he'd be stripped, and this title would be up for grabs, right? The last 140-pound title up for grabs. Do you give him the benefit of the doubt, Josh Taylor? Drew? I'll start with Drew.
Yeah, I give him the benefit of the doubt. He's already saw it. Giving Jamal Charlo the benefit of a doubt that they're hurt and everything. And for the fights being postponed and everything. And like at the WBC convention, they were saying he was inactive for over a year so far now. And Carlos Adonis wanted to be named a mandatory, and they said they instead put him in a fight. The fight for the mandatory spot, just like now, another bad decision. They're letting Errol Spence fight Keith Thurman at 154 instead of making sure that he fights him at 147, because it was mandated for him to fight at 147 for that WBC title. He should be stripped for that. He should be stripped. Like, if you are defending a title, if you're ordered to defend your title against a certain person, and then you want to fight him at 154 instead, you should be stripped of it. Even went on record and said that Errol Spence went on record and said, I would never defend a title against Keith Thurman because he wouldn't defend a belt against me and everything. But onto this subject, I really what can I say? It's like a load of bullshit with the sanctioning bodies and everything. Josh Taylor should just vacate that last belt and move up to 147. You already had a hard time making 140 for that kind of long fight. And now this postponement and everything. If you want to have the fight with the rematch, have it 147. You don't need to make 140 anymore. You done enough at 140. You beat top fighters at 140. And, like, you beat two of the top fighters, Jose Ramirez and Regis Prograis. So move up. There's nothing else for you to do at 140. And now, so these belts are going to be up for grabs. Prograis has the WBC belt. IBF is on the PBC side.
Alberto Puello, who, by the way, Adrian Broner today says, I never heard of him. Adrian Broner looking for a dance partner. We'll get to Adrian Broner news because he's always entertaining.
Yeah.
But Lukey, are they being unfair with him, the WBO? With being unfair to Josh Taylor to prove?
I mean, none of these people fight, bro. Like, Errol Spence never fights. Jermell Charlo never fights. Josh Taylor fought a bunch of guys, and now his body's breaking down because he fought pretty much everybody that was good, and his body's just like, I'm over it. Like, I get that they're being unfair, but I also understand you're at, like, 140, which is Murderer's Row. At a certain point, we just need to, like Errol Spence needs to lose his belts. Jermall Charlo needs to lose his belts. If you can't defend your belts within a calendar year, you just got to lose them because it's like, look at a guy like Charles Conwell, right? He's been waiting for how many years just to get an opportunity to fight for a belt. And the world champion is one guy who has all four belts who fights maybe once a year. The guys go from 24 to 28 real quick when there's only 4 fights in their division and everyone's just waiting around to get the highest paid fight. I think that really Josh Taylor has maybe, like, what do you guys think, 2 fights left and then he's got to retire? I mean, it's basically he's at the end of his career. So if he wants to have the title, whatever, prove it. I think they're just putting the squeeze down because, like, the sanctioning body is upset. This guy's been inactive for over a year. And before that, he fought one time in 2021. So, I mean, Taylor's just being very, very inactive. And it's disappointing because this should be kind of like his victory lap where he kind of gets his flowers.
Somebody who's been extremely inactive over the course of his career is a 4-time world champion Adrian Broner, and he finds himself he's now under this BLK Prime, which is the one that Terrence Crawford is under. And Drew, I think you heard Red Catch, he can't fight for promotional issues. And now Hank Lundy from Philadelphia, a true gatekeeper guy who can give you tough challenges. He's not inactive. He just fought, but apparently now Lundy's big fight with AB is in big jeopardy here because this is really confusing. I don't know if you know the facts better, Lukey, but apparently he's suspended by the California State Athletic Commission for not being able to fight in California on a fight he was contractually signed to fight in California, and he said he couldn't fight over a big cut, which makes him inactive to fight AB. So he's going to miss out on a tremendous payday. This is a guy who fights all the time, man. Hank Lundy, whether you like him or not, he's always ready to fight. It doesn't look like they're going to give him the opportunity because California State Athletic Commission says you can't fight anywhere. If you're suspended here, you can't fight AB in Georgia. So, man, Lukey, does this leave room for AB to come back and potentially get himself in line for a 140 title shot against somebody? Today he said he doesn't even know who Alberto Puello is, who holds the PBC WBA, I think the WBA,
I mean,
IBF.
Broner is close to being in the world of like a Jake Paul influencer fighter than he is a world championship boxer. So Broner is a guy who has a lot of enthusiasm around him. He's very entertaining. But let's not forget he hasn't had a marquee win in about 8 years. He hasn't looked like the guy from the DeMarco fight in over a decade.
I don't think he even won his last fight.
I think a lot of it. I mean, and if we go back further, did he win the Granados fight? There was a lot of benefit in that fight. That was a very close fight. He hasn't looked like the guy we fell in love with. And I think we really want to see, like, a guy like Broner, I think, whether people want to believe it or not, they really want to see his comeback. I think everybody, because he's kind of messed up his career so much, I think people would like to see that positive farewell to end. But I think it's hard because I think there's a lot of irreversible damage he's done. And I think that what we're seeing is, even though he's 32 years old, he didn't live the life of an athlete. And we see just how short that window is to be an athlete. And what I think I'm looking at is a guy trying to get back in shape from not living the life, not eating the food, not staying in the gym. It reminds me when I was 22, I skateboarded all throughout my teenage years. I tried to skateboard when I was 22, and it took me like a year to get back all the tricks. And imagine a boxer in their 30s. I would say that it probably takes a couple of years to get there, and now you don't have your athleticism and speed you once had. So on top of just not having it, I think it's a hard ask. And I think really at this point, Broner needs to fight kind of these mid-level guys who have names and are entertaining. But I don't think he can realistically vie for a title unless someone wants to see him in trouble.
Yeah, he definitely needs to get some wins under his win column again. Today or yesterday in his interview, Drew, he slammed the idea of fighting Raleigh at 140 pounds. He says he has nothing to gain and everything to lose fighting a 135-pound fighter. He says, no disrespect, I actually like him. He's funny, but so is Mike Epps, the comedian. Do you want to see me fight Mike Epps? He didn't turn down the idea of a Ryan Garcia fight. Maybe he understands that's huge money at 140 pounds, but he definitely is not interested in somebody like Rolando Romero. I'll be interested to see who he fights, Drew. I can't imagine paying for a pay-per-view for that. We didn't touch on this, but you know what, Lukey, while Lukey's on the phone, these pay-per-view numbers...
He needs to fight Blair. Like, that's the fight.
Blair the Flair?
Yeah, that's the fight. Broner versus Blair. They're both limited guys who have big personalities.
I love that fight, especially at 140. We know he has problems making weight at 140. Why keep on with that facade? But
make a catch weight, 145.
I like that fight. Drew, you like that fight? Big talkers?
Be funny as hell.
The lead up would definitely be worthwhile, better than Lundy. Actually, I think I agree with that. And
it would sell pay-per-views too, bro.
Yeah, Blair has a big mouth and he's looking for a big opponent. He seems to be upset with Oscar De La Hoya not pushing his career. He even alluded that Oscar was upset that he got the win over Drew. You were just talking about Maurice Hooker. He thinks Oscar was upset that he won that fight.
I think he's out of his contract. Blair's
But-
out of his contract now, so I think he's talking more freely because he just got his release from his contract.
Well, so some I've been wanting to talk about, like these pay-per-view numbers.
Yeah,
Like-
I know it's been on your mind. These tank pay-per-view numbers and how people get so upset on social media debating them. Lukey, is there an actual accurate way for fans, just regular fans, to find out what the actual pay-per-view numbers are?
I've never cared.
Why
So,
does it
like,
matter?
I
It
don't
matters so much to
care.
so
I
many
care about
people.
Because the way I look at it is right now, boxing gets terrible budgets. We're not even on TV anymore because advertisers don't even want to advertise with boxing. We're not a viable commodity. People would rather buy reruns of Home Alone and other movies than put boxing on the weekends. So it's obvious boxing isn't in the greatest place. I don't need to look at pay-per-view numbers to know where the state of boxing is, because boxing is getting put behind paywalls and all different things that very successful sports aren't having to do. I don't see golf. I don't see tennis. I don't see the NBA. I don't see the NFL. These are sports that I get with my YouTube TV package. Boxing is a sport where the advertisers are not keen on it. They're not investing in it. ESPN is, but as a sport as a whole, I'm not seeing advertisers running to it and seeing it as a viable commodity. I don't see fans of boxing getting behind products that are advertising in it, which I think is an issue too, because like the advertisers go, we don't see a direct sale from being invested in the sport. So for me personally, I just look about look at it is, I'm spending at this point $80. Is this an enjoyable experience? Did I enjoy the product? That's all I care about. I don't give a crap about anything beyond that. And for me, it's really, do I want to play a round of golf, or do I want to watch a pay-per-view? Or can I find someone that's getting the pay-per-view and buy a pizza for their house? I don't care who's a star or not a star. It doesn't impact my wallet. I don't care. I look at the in-ring action.
Drew, I know what's your thoughts on these pay-per-view numbers? And because Lukey's bringing up the whole fact that we can't get on regular TV, and I'm still freaking. I'm one of these people who's really upset about slap boxing getting an opportunity on regular television, TBS, not free TV. But man, how is that getting on television? Dana White's new venture over traditional boxing.
I look at it like this. They said the number, like, Rick Laser said the number was 60. His source said it was 61,000 pay-per-view buys. Paramount and Boxing Scene, which is owned by CBS, said it was 222,000 pay-per-view buys. And I'm hearing all different opinions on it. Like people calling this dude a liar, saying that they can't lie about the numbers, Paramount because it's illegal to lie about some financial numbers and everything. I'm sorry, but if CNN and Fox News can lie about financial stuff, so can CBS and Paramount and Boxing Scene. I'm sorry, we're not gonna. It's not against the law because CNN would have got it. Fox would have got it. And so it's like Bob Elm. I was talking to somebody about this earlier. Bob Elm sometimes comes at some promoters and say, hey, I don't think that did a lot of pay-per-views. I think that only did like 100,000 pay-per-view buys. You think they're going to sue him? You think that's illegal? Do you want to sue him for slander or something? Or like Atlanta Ellaby saying that that Eddie Hearn pay-per-view didn't do many pay-per-view buys and everything. Does you call that slander too? Like, I just don't get why people are trying to justify this. I don't believe 61,000, by the way. I believe it's a little bit higher, but it's not 222,000, 100,000. Like, I'm sorry, but a lot, like, you gotta realize anybody can lie about pay-per-view numbers. It's not illegal because CNN, Fox News, they lie about financial shit. They lie about other shit too. Like, seriously.
Can I interrupt here and just mess up the show too and just say, like, can we talk about the fact that, like, Tank was arrested the week before, and like during the whole telecast, people just beat around the bush from media to the broadcast. Like, to me, that's just as bad as whatever pay-per-view number it is. Is it like, here's the most relevant thing about it's kind of like Kyrie Irving, right? He'll do all this crazy stuff outside of a basketball game, and then he comes to a basketball press conference and he'll be like, hey man, I just want to talk about everything that's in the news and everything that makes me interesting and everything that the people that read your publication want to talk about. I just want to talk about the basketball game where I'm kind of half-assing it. And you're kind of like, dude, what's going on here? We want to get this. And with Tank, it's like, well, there's this crazy story that just came out, and you say you're innocent, but we want to talk about it. And it's like nobody was really addressing it. And to me, that was like, what the freak, dude? What are we even doing as a sport if we're not even touching on these subjects?
But you know what? It'll be some of these people are saying that Tank's getting fairly untreated, that we're bringing it up, that YouTubers or and other people on TMZ's bringing it up more than the Dana White situation, which is untrue because they're bringing up Dana White a lot more because he's more famous than Tank Davis. God damn, he owns the #1 MMA. He's a CEO and owner of the #1 MMA promotion in the world, and for Christ's sake. Like, and like you say, Lukey, they're not bringing it up. during the pay-per-views or during the shows or anything, during the events or anything. That, like, nobody's bringing the shit up. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, it's like, oh,
And
hating
just to touch on this, Drew, fair is fair. Fair is fair. So you have to, if you talk about Dana White, you have to talk about Tank.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of domestic violence, but if you say that you didn't do it, can we please just get you to address it if you didn't do it on a public platform? So those that have issues about that might buy the pay-per-view, because that might be a deal breaker. What rubbed me the wrong way was, let's get state-run media to Tank, have them throw a couple of softballs, like, hey, man, are you going to land this big punch on him? And he's like, yeah, I might land that punch. It's like, what the freak are we doing, bro? This is why boxing journalism is looked at as like a bunch of fans that don't have jobs. Because the real question, a wartime report.
I don't know. It's like this. You stopped the Rolly Romero fight from happening when he's got allegations of sexual assault, and he wasn't convicted, but you didn't stop him Tank fight when he got caught on camera choking a female and then being accused of domestic violence again and everything. You let the fight go, but then, when someone brought that up, Stephen Espinosa had to jump in and say, no, it wasn't us. It was Wally people and the WBA. And, like, here's the thing. A year after the fight happened, you decided to bring it up instead of bringing it up back then when it first happened. That's fishy right there to me. And I think a lot of people agree with me. That's a fishy situation right there. Because if you wanted to clear yourself, you will bring it up right there.
And Drew, this is why no one believes the numbers, right? Because on issues that are kind of black and white, that are very simple, in boxing, we never get the truth until it's like years later. And it's always through back channel things, and it's never what we were originally told. So when I see these numbers, it's like, oh, a guy that hates PBC says it did really bad. Oh, a guy that likes PBC said it did awesome. Oh, a neutral publication's in the middle. Who cares? Like, none of these numbers are probably right. I think it was really boneheaded and kind of tasteless to put on a pay-per-view a few weeks after Christmas and the New Year, because that's an unrealistic time to ask people to pay for something. But that's just my personal thing. As like someone that works in a business, I would never demand the consumer to spend their money after a holiday that's like, hey, if you don't spend money on your family, you're worthless. Like, I would never say 2 weeks later, if you want to be a boxing fan, you got to consume this at a price point. At the same time, I don't like hearing people just be like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. Whenever a fighter can get a fight date, they got to jump on it. I just think that what's goofy about boxing is we've turned into sports organizations. I'm top-ranked guy. I'm PBC guy. I'm matchroom guy. And what sucks for me is I'm just a boxing guy. And every single sub-league fan hates me because at times everyone messes up. And in this world, you have to buy into groupthink of, oh, I'm indoctrinated with this popular opinion, so I will jump in with this popular opinion. And this will be my narrative to talk with other people that follow this popular opinion. So when I enter a conversation, they will understand this language I use. So now we both have ownership and we know we're both cool guys. And I just think it's utter bullshit. So sorry for cussing.
No, man, I agree with you. I agree with Lukey on that 100%.
Like, I look at it like this. I always say boxing is a sport that's not dead, but on life support. And it doesn't help with the fans. It doesn't help with with content creators that are justifying a lot of the shit that is wrong with this sport today. And I always said that it's on life support. But if we keep going the way we going with this, sport's going to be dead in about 5 years. It's going to be like hockey, when hockey went downhill and then is now trying to come back on the rise and is struggling to come back on the rise.
Guys, I want to ask both.
Let me just
go right ahead.
Jump in and add. I want to say, like, people look at boxing and say it wants to come back, and Drew hit it on the head. We're competing with NASCAR, the NHL, and MLB. We're not even anywhere near NBA or any of those. We're competing with fringe sports that have fringe fans that are on secondary channels that are afterthoughts that come on after other things that have vibrant fan bases. So though our sport is not dead, we are the sport that is perfect for experimental apps and all different types of things, venture capital funds, because we are a sport where if you bring money in, you can just get a large piece of the pie, because there is no regulation, there is no system, and honestly, there's no fairness to the fans to give the fans a certain quality of fight.
Agree 100%. Lukey, with that being said, Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, there was a lot of hoopla was made last week over Oscar demanding to see a contract. And Tuesday of last week, he says he had the contract and showed everyone on social media he had the contract. I've heard nothing about it being signed and returned to Showtime. What is the probability of this fight, in your opinion, being on schedule for April 15th in Las Vegas?
40%.
A solid 40. Does this criminal trial play a big factor in the timing of this fight going forward?
Well, I mean, let's just think about it like a business. So like I like playing golf. So like if you want to play good golf and you're able to hit shots, what a good golf instructor will teach you, which is boring to most of your audience, is try to think backwards to how you can get yourself the shortest putt for the lowest number. So let's try to think backwards to the steps that if we were in this position, how could we make the most money if we promoted this show? Well, I think one would be sponsors. How much time in advance do sponsors want to get things such as gloves signed for both participants? How much of a window do they need to do that to get maybe benefactors or people to give money? Would you guys say at least 6 weeks, right? And what are some of the obligations that come with that? Not just press, but I'm saying in terms of building as much financial capital as possible. I think it's feasible that it could happen in April, but I mean, they really have to get down, because I think that if it were to happen, everything would just happen too rushed if it happened on April 15th.
Drew, you think it's going to happen? We talk about it repeatedly. It feels like we're at the end of January. Something's got to give.
Dave, I've been telling you from this fight's not going to happen. And if it gets signed, which I doubt, because that does not look like a fucking contract to me, that they sign it a month before the fight is supposed to happen, somebody pulls out. But this fight's, and they're not going to revisit it. This fight's not going to happen. Like, there's so much obstacles for this fight to happen. Tank's trial, like people are saying that PBC don't really have contracts signed until the week of the fight. So don't know how true that is. Don't know how not true that is. But the thing about it is, man, like PBC is not going to share pay-per-view revenue with DAZN. And Oscar has to have this a co-pay-per-view event for DAZN, because they invested a lot of money in Golden Boy, and they also invested a lot of money in Ryan Garcia. They gotta see some profit off of this shit. And that's another thing why this fight's not gonna happen. The way PBC does business. Like, why are we giving our hopes up for this? Like, seriously, I'm gonna tell you, fight's not gonna happen. Tank's gonna try to bring somebody up from. They're gonna try to bring somebody up from 130 to fight Tank. Ryan, they're just gonna bring somebody up from 130, 135 to fight him at 140. That's the road that we're at again. Like, this is something that's never going to change. This fight's not going to happen. These guys should not even worry about fighting each other. These guys should worry about fucking cementing their legacy by fighting the best fighters in the world. These guys should concentrate on fighting the Devin Haney's, the Shakur Stevensons, the Vasily Lomachenkos, the Josh Taylors, the Teofimos Lopez, like Regis Prograis. I can go on and on. But these guys are talking. Ryan's talking about fighting Tank. Tank's talking about, hey, I'll fight him. Or I'll fight somebody that PBC brings me up from 130 to whoop his ass real quick and make me look good, make my $1.5 million and guarantee money.
I heard that, guys. Hey, Lukey, thank you so much for this impromptu phone call. It's always a pleasure. You guys make sure I just put up at Lukey Boxing. Make sure you follow him on social media and look out for his books. You can get this book on Amazon, Inside the Ropes of Boxing, a true boxing journalist. Lukey, that was some joke you said, that boxing journalists seem like they're guys without jobs, fans without jobs. I was trying to wrap my head around that. But Lukey, is there anything that you're looking forward to in the next month or so in the sport of boxing? Well, I may have lost Lukey, but guys, we're going to wrap up the Shoe Shine anyhow. And I want to say thank you so much for that impromptu call by Lukey. Make sure you follow him at Lukey Boxing, Inside the Ropes of Boxing, like I just pointed out. Drew, a couple of big fights. We get to see ALexis Rocha to see if he's the real deal at 147. Again, we get to see that. He's ranked by the WBO. We get to see Arthur BETERBEIV, the wrecking machine, and see if does he beat up on Anthony Yarde better than Kovalev. Washed up Kovalev. Other than that, the most exciting thing this weekend, Momfu Planning Things, thank you for coming by. Boxing MMA says he was a great caller. Of course he is. Little Penny says go Niners. Most important thing on my plate this weekend is who's going to win this NFC Championship game and go to the Super Bowl, Drew. I'm waiting for the Niners to get that 6th, 7th ring. Shit, I forgot because I lost count, man. And Eagles, someone's going to take a pie next week. If you guys didn't already hear, Drew and I have made a wager. We made this wager on a different sports platform, our Urban AZ. Somebody's going to be taking a pie. Real quick, Drew, before I let you sign off too and get your final thoughts on everything, this is some good news that I'm looking forward to, Drew, but did you hear that Joe Joyce and Zalil Zhang will be fighting for a chance to fight the winner of Tyson Fury and Usyk, man? This is a great fight. Is it not a great fight in heavyweight?
You know what, man? I got to get to Joe Joyce, man. He keeps fighting these guys, man. Like, he's fighting another good contender. He got robbed. The dude got robbed against Horgatev. I thought he beat Philip Horgatev and everything. And I got to say this, man. Joe Joyce is taking a more dangerous fight than Anthony Joshua is.
He is. AJ's taking all these tune-ups, going across the seas, looking for trainer, the next guy to fix his big problem. And I think Zalil Zhang, we recently saw him fight in his last fight. I think this guy deserved that fight to get the nod. He came up with the loss, but here he finds himself fighting the juggernaut, Joe Joyce, for a shot at the winner. And I was reading that Joe Joyce and Tyson Fury are both promoted by Queensberry, Drew. So I think I haven't come to terms with who's going to win that fight between Usyk and Tyson Fury. Should it happen, it's going to be a fight of the year easily, right? A heavyweight fight for the books, as they like to say. But anyways, Joe Joyce will get a shot, or Zalil Zhang, if he can pull off the upset on Joe Joyce, one of these guys will get to fight that, man. Great fight, right?
Yeah, I don't think he beats Joe Joyce. I really don't think he beats Joe Joyce. I'll be honest. Outside of Usyk and Tyson Fury, I think Joe Joyce is the third best heavyweight in the world.
All right, as we wrap up the show.
Juggernaut.
The juggernaut. Bella Blink says, I want to see Drew repping the Bang Bang Niner Gang. Yeah, there was some talks about, Drew, that we don't do the pie bet. If you stayed this late and you think we should call off the pie bet and do something
We're not calling off the pie.
All right, he calling off the pie bet. Drew wants to see me take a pie. There were some people saying maybe we should just do jerseys.
I'm going to make this so special for me when the Eagles win. I'm going to have your wife hit you with the pie.
I thought about that too. I thought, I can't do the pie to myself. Who's going to shut off the stream though? Shit, if I lose, I better have a whole shitload of wet towels ready to go. Do not miss that next weekend. Let everybody know. We'll be doing it towards the end of the show. Of course, we'll find out who wins this Sunday. 49ers, San Francisco Bang Bang Niner Gang, or the Philly Eagles. It's been a great show. And thank you so much at Lukey Boxing. I'm Dave from the 488. Drew Evo. We'll see you next week. Peace out, guys.